Hello and welcome. I am so glad that you have joined us today. And I want to let you know that today is an especially important show. And as you know, the last few shows I've been focusing on African American nurses and their journey. And today we're going to take a deeper dive into a local Bay Area major number one medical center and the strategies that they are using and what they have done to promote African American nurses within their medical center and environment. So you're going to meet our guests a little later after I lead you by invitation into a brief centering exercise. Take about a minute, and the whole purpose is to gather ourselves into the space. It's really a gift for yourself during this time so that you can be fully present and embrace the wisdom that our guests will share with us today. So, whether you're a nurse, you know a nurse, you want to be a nurse, this is an episode that you really want to stay here for. So, let's begin. I'm going to invite you to either lower your gaze or close your eyes and follow my voice as I create this environment for you. So I'd like you to imagine that there's a big yellow ball full of warm light, and it's at the top of your head, and it begins streaming down your body, starting at the top of your head, your forehead, the front of your face, the back of your head, your neck. And as it's going slowly down your body, I like you to imagine each part of your body just lighting up and feeling warm and relaxing. And now it's going on your shoulders, down your arms, coming back and circling your chest, and then down to your abdomen, your hips, your upper legs, lower legs, and kind of grounding you um, to the earth at your feet. And so your whole body right now is lit up and warm and relaxed. And now I'd like you to focus on your heart that's also filled with this warm yellow light. And I want you to imagine that you're sending this light, warm, relaxing light, out about 3 feet around you and then into the space that you're in. So it might now maybe touching other people, into the building that you're in. So it's going through the walls. And now we're going to send it out into this virtual world, touching everyone within the sound of my voice, and then out into the physical global world. So you're sending this love and light that has emanated from you out into the world. And we're going to take one deep breath together in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I invite you now to enter this space as you gently open your eyes or raise your gaze. So for those of you who have just joined us, I'm Dr. Paulina Van, the host of the Poetry of Healing, and you're just in time to meet our guests. And so I'm going to bring them in. Let me bring them in. And hello, Dr. Williams and Dr. Beatty. Welcome to the Poetry of Healing. I'm so glad you're here. So how are you doing, Dr. Williams?
Hi, Dr. Van and Dr. Beatty. It is so nice to see both of you. I'm doing very well. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm really looking forward to thinking about what we do every day in our practice to support nurses, thinking about our world and, supporting one another, and also just keeping in our thoughts, others and looking at ways in which we can put them first. So really happy to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much. And Dr. Beatty?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thrilled also to be here today. I'm really excited about our topic of really the Stanford Black Nursing Excellence that we have and what we've learned, what we hope to learn in the future. And I think it's so meaningful when we talk about wellness and connecting with one another to create meaning and celebration. So looking forward to a rich discussion, Dr. Van, with you today.
Oh, wonderful. And, I've been kind of drumming up the excitement because just in a few days, we'll have the National Black Nurses Convention right here in San Francisco. So I've been kind of getting our communities just ready for this incredible event. But before, I'd like the viewers to get to know you a little bit. And both of you are such incredible leaders and have been for decades, but you're also very humble. But I ask you to share with our viewers some of your background that you feel is relevant to this conversation, and anything personal you'd like to share with the viewers as well. So may I call you Michelle?
Absolutely, yes.
So Michelle, will you begin?
Certainly. First, I'd just like to say I'm really excited to be here and look forward to talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is ways in which I can serve nursing. My background started actually with my interest in nursing dating back to middle school. My goal at that time was to serve other people. So pursuing nursing was something that came very naturally for me. I spent just under 30 years at Kaiser Permanente, coming up through the ranks, starting as a NICU nurse and, leading nursing as a chief nurse executive at the Kaiser Richmond Medical Center, and then also working with dynamic people at the national level, including Dr. Marilyn Chow. I've been so blessed over the last nearly 5 years to be at Kaiser. I'll say that again. I've been so blessed over the last 5 years to be at Stanford Healthcare, working with incredible leadership. I'm having the pleasure of reporting directly to Dr. Dale Beatty. And some of the things that have been really important across my career is looking at ways in which I can advocate for nursing, particularly for frontline nursing, looking at ways to contribute to building our practice around quality, research and education and excellence. Over the last 5 years, I've had the pleasure of working with our cultural team members across the organization to look at ways in which we can create this sense of belonging across nursing. And more specifically to build community. So one highlight that I'm really very honored to say I helped drive was building the Stanford Medicine Black Nurses Association, starting, my first year in my position in 2020 and seeing it grow over the last 3.5 years. What we have been able to do in terms of creating the sense of community at Stanford Healthcare has been incredible. We've been able to connect to our local community. We've been able to support and fund community-based projects across the East Bay, across our local area, in addition to working with our partners across the state of California and at the national level. And you mentioned earlier that in the next week and a half, we'll be kicking off the 52nd annual National Black Nurses Association Conference. And I'm so excited to share that so many of my colleagues across our region and at Stanford Healthcare are participating in the conference. So many things to be grateful for, continuing to contribute to just building excellence in nursing. So I'm really excited about the work that I've had the pleasure of doing.
Well, we're going to dive deeper into what Stanford has specifically been doing in terms of Black nurses. But thank you. And you see, I did a little research on you as a researcher, of course. And you are a techie as well as a scientist and a scholar. And would you please share with us your title at Stanford?
Certainly. I'm the Associate Chief Nursing Officer of Research and Health Equity. And you're right, I am a techie. I spent about 10 years as National Director of Technology Research and Innovation. So I got to work with, technology specialists and enthusiasts. And as a registered nurse working in that space, it was kind of interesting because some of the ideas that nursing staff had to improve not only their practice, but patient care and outcomes seemed way out. But it's kind of interesting when you're sitting in a room full of people who are thinking, very innovatively about advanced technologies and to be able to build some of these ideas out. A couple really stand out for me, and that was an opportunity for me to lead nurses in building a patient room of the future, looking at it from the patient's perspective and the nurse's perspective. I mean, that was really fascinating, among other things. But yeah, being in tech, I think, is really just honestly the culmination of the work that we do every day in practice, looking at better ways to do the same things with less steps and using technology to augment our practice. So I think it's a great place for nurses to be, and I certainly have enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So you were an early adopter in that thinking, and you were one of the thought partners that really laid the foundation for what we're doing today. And so, Dale, may I call you Dale?
Sure can.
Yes. And I just want to let the viewers know, as you can see, all of us have pretty much the same initials behind our name. So we're also very connected. All three of us were inducted as fellows into the American Academy of Nursing almost a year ago it's been. And so we have this special connection, this special bond, which I am humbled to share with you. So Dale, can you begin with your title?
Sure.
And tell us what you would like about.
Sure. Thank you, Paulina. So I'm Dale Beatty. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Nurse Exec here at Stanford Healthcare in Stanford, California. And I've been here 7 years. I've been a chief nurse for 23 years of my career. So the majority of my career, I've been in this type of role. And what's important to me really is the people and what you can do to help advance individuals and teams to really to be part of a high-performing organization like Stanford and other organizations that I've been involved with in my career. My goal always is certainly to develop myself individually, but what's even more important to me is helping others achieve what it is that they want to achieve within their career. And it's really amazing what we can do together as a community. You highlighted the intersection that you, Michelle, and myself have with Van. I think there's a lot more than that because you and I have shared some space in caring science and the study in that. And that has been a really important focus for me in my career in helping to create wellness. I also think it bridges quite nicely into really intersecting in the work that Michelle and I do here with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I think creating an inclusive environment where people can be seen and recognized is critically important. And that has been a lot of fun. Dr. Williams mentioned that she reported to me, and I think that's probably true functionally. But the truth of the matter is sometimes I report to her too. And I remember when Michelle first came, and she mentioned that we were going to develop the Black Nurses Association at Stanford. She also said, you're going to be involved in this as well. And in fact, you're going to be going to the national conference in Chicago with us. And so off I went, and I learned a ton. And I do think part of it in this world that we're in our professional careers is making sure no matter where you're at in your journey, that you remain open to learning and understanding and creating more meaningful connections. I've been honored to this year, and I think you both will be at the National Black Nurses Association also. But I'm really appreciative of so many things that I've been able. I was inducted last year as a fellow in the American Organization of Nursing Leadership, and I've been recognized in U.S. News and World Report as a top chief nurse executive. And that's meaningful to me because I really value the work I do with people. And I think it's important that we help advance and recognize each other. And the intersectionality of between the three of us in our career is quite amazing. And I think we could actually dialogue on that the entire session. But I'm really looking forward to the dialogue today in the work that in discussion that we'll have.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dale. And if you're just joining us, I have two phenomenal guests, Dr. Williams and Dr. Beatty from Stanford Medical Center here in California. And you're just in time to hear us to begin to discuss the Black Nurses Association's chapter at their medical center. And so I want to begin with, it is titled the Black Nurses Association, and Dale is a member of that association. And so as Dr. Fields and I spoke of a couple of months ago, he's the president of the National Association, that the association embraces all nurses. And so I'd like to begin. I have a couple of prompts here that I'd like to talk to you about. So you and Michelle, Dale and Michelle, have been involved in health equity work before health equity was the term. And so my question to you is, just looking at nursing as a whole, not necessarily at your medical center, but nursing as a whole, discuss the importance of diversity and inclusion in our profession.
Well, I'll start it. I know Michelle has a lot more to add, but I think we know from the evidence is clear that having diversity, equity, and inclusion drives outcomes, positive outcomes in healthcare. And so we know that the lack of diversity creates disparity in terms of quality, patient satisfaction, language barriers create safety issues. And so all of these are critically important. And I also think, sometimes we have bias about, our healthcare system in the US, yet I think there's still a lot we can learn from others. And so I had the good fortune when I was at my prior organization of doing my doctorate in nursing practice, looking at the healthcare system in India. And I went in with a pretty significant bias thinking, well, we're going to have so much more to teach and learn. And I think that's true in some regard, but they also have a structure where they're really making sure they're stratifying patient populations based on risks, like the elderly, pregnant women, children, making sure that they had access to healthcare. And I think we still have opportunities here in the United States to make sure that happens. And we saw that in the pandemic as well, where people didn't have access. Not all people did not have access to a vaccine. And I think as nurses, we have the moral, ethical, and social responsibility to make sure that we're providing access and care equally and equitably across all communities.
Mm-hmm. And thus, the lack of representation or adequate representation of African American nurses and nurses of color in our profession to serve our various communities. So I'm going to hone in now and ask you to think about some unique challenges and triumphs that nurses of color have experienced at your medical center. And I just want to preface it by saying those challenges or triumphs are not unique to your medical center. It's, it's reflective of our profession, of what happens in society. But I'd just like you to speak to that as well. Michelle, would you like to?
Absolutely. Thank you. I just want to say that I agree wholeheartedly with what Dale has mentioned. I think it's so important for us to think about nursing as we do the world. as a collective. We are a broad community, and it is so important to have these communities come together. We serve the community, so having that representation is really important, and it adds to sort of the diversity of thought and ideas and ways of doing things. And so I think it's so important. So we really value that at Stanford, and our work is focused around that. You mentioned the NBNA is inclusive, and that its mission really sort of drives that forward in so many ways. And I just want to share just a bit with you about that before I reflect on some of the wonderful experiences that we have had across Stanford healthcare in our journey to create this sense of belonging. So the mission states, the NBNA mission is to provide a forum for collective action, to represent and provide a forum for nurses to advocate for and implement strategies to ensure access to the highest quality of care for persons of color. Now you can just spread that. Persons with different abilities, persons with different social economic status and so forth. And that mission, I think nurses can all agree with. So some of the things that we have done over the last nearly 5 years to build community and build a sense of belonging has been to look at it from a cultural standpoint and try to understand what those important things are for nurses across the spectrum. We started by working with our African American nursing community to really understand what from their perspective they experience from a sense of belonging at Stanford. And as you know, Black nurses represent a smaller percentage of the overall population of nurses across the United States. So quite naturally, in some communities, that would also then be reflected within an organization. So one of the things that we looked at was, how can we bring more diversity within our organization? So we looked at the structure of positions within our organization, and Dale can certainly speak to this. Where do most nurses of color come from when it regarding their educational background? We know that vast majority of nurses of color come through the community college pathway. So we looked at how might we restructure our criteria for registered nurses so that we can really sort of create that pathway, that pipeline for nurses of color from associate degree nursing programs. We also looked at other ways in which we could do this, looking at nurses who may, as a internursing, start in like subacute care, post-acute care, and how might we also create a pathway for them to come to Stanford after doing that. So those are just some of the things that we have looked at. Another thing that we looked at is how might we look at belonging from a human-centered design standpoint. And so we partnered with some experts in this space, and we asked nurses from across Stanford Healthcare to help us think about what belonging means to them at Stanford Healthcare. And we spent the last 2.5 years working with this broad team and identifying ways in which we can create a sense of community on so many different levels. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We realized that there was an opportunity for us to build a mentorship program that was culturally focused. What we heard from our African American nurses was, it'd be really neat if I could have a mentor that looked like me, or have a mentor that also understood me from a holistic standpoint. So how might we do that? So that was one thing that we looked at. Another thing that we looked at was, because we don't have a vast population of African American nurses at Stanford Healthcare, how might we highlight, all of the opportunities that we do have when someone comes to our organization, through a new employee orientation? How might we do that so that new people know exactly sort of what those opportunities are? So a team was dedicated to revamping our new employee orientation. So that very first day that there are in fact nurses and there is representation across the organization. How might you get involved? Like, initially as you're coming into the organization. And to an earlier point that you made about looking at health disparities, one of the things that came out of some of these discussions with our African-American nurses was, how might we ensure that our patients are receiving, excellence in care, support for their cultural, religious, and other needs, so they know that we really sort of appreciate their background and their family and their history and all of the wonderful things about them as individuals, talk about patient-centered care, but looking at it from a cultural standpoint. So we developed an equity award process, which recognizes excellence in culturally based care, excellence in personalized care. So these are just some of the things that we have done. And I will tell you, allowing our staff to take the lead on this and identify the things that are important to them, and providing resources so that they could help develop these ways of doing things differently has made all the difference in the world. Not to mention the Forum for Community through our Stanford Medicine Black Nurses Association, which also sort of was a catalyst to other culturally based nursing associations progressing across Stanford healthcare as well. So I'm going to stop there because I could talk about this all day long. We've done so many things and have created a number of pipelines. And we also, are so grateful to be a part of the National Black Nurses Association because it has been sort of a mechanism for us to recruit new grad registered nurses who are members of chapters, Black Nursing Association chapters across, the United States to Stanford. So it's something that we're going to continue to look to as an opportunity.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for giving us that look into some of the impact, because I really wanted our viewers to know about the impact. So Dale, I'm going to roll back a little bit and say you have been very, very active in the National Black Nurses Association. And what gave you, besides Michelle, what gave you the confidence that this would be a valuable, that a chapter at Stanford would be a valuable asset to the professional and personal development of the Black nurses?
Sure. Thank you for this. And actually, this is quite personal, but relevant. And it actually started many, many years ago for me. First of all, when I went into nursing school, I was the only male in my program. And it was uncomfortable to sit in a room and be the only. And it certainly doesn't make me a person of color, but it gives me a perspective of what it's like to be different and not necessarily fitting in to be the same. So that was an early recognition. It made me very insecure about who I was. But over time, it actually, through my own self-reflection and building, I was able to leverage it as a strength. The second part is both of my children are of color. And it doesn't make me a person of color, but it gave me a perspective and a lens or a view of the world that I didn't have before. And I realized through some of the issues that happened through their growing up as well, that I had a personal responsibility and obligation, a moral and an ethical responsibility to help elevate and create equality and equity in the world that we live in. And so it became very personal. Michelle actually created a conduit for it, for me to really help leverage that at a national level. And she's right. We just now opened up our Philippines Nurses Association with our Filipino Nurses Association. And now in just 1 month, we are the largest chapter in the West Coast. And so that was leveraged off of the work that was done by NBNA and Michelle and the Black Nurses Association here, creating community and creating visibility in it as well. And, we all learn and we all have our biases. And I remember this story, and Michelle knows this. I had an individual who actually is a good friend of mine today, but when I first came to Stanford, she came and she was being really honest and transparent. And she said, I'm really I want to tell you, I'm disappointed you were hired because yet you're another old white male coming into the organization. And she was being completely honest. And I took it not in a personal sense, but it made me realize that she also had her bias too, because she didn't recognize the diversity that I represent. And it's a learning and a journey for all of us to open ourselves up, be authentic, to be the best that we possibly could be. And I appreciated her truth and her honesty of what her experience was. And that was through the lens of what she's experienced through her years. And I can tell you the impact on me at Stanford has been, when I started, we had at a senior level, one person of color on the team. Now we have 50% of the senior leadership team and the patient care. And so it's not just having frontline representation, it's also making sure you have it at the top in your senior leadership team as well. And so I'm really proud of that fact, but it's come from a journey of insight and learning, and I'm not done yet. There's more to learn, and I do think it's important for us to get out there, be involved, learn from one another, and grow. And I can honestly say I have grown so much personally from working with Michelle Williams and learning so much, and I'm grateful.
Yes. Thank you, Dale. And you brought up, I have a couple of follow-up questions, if I might. And one is, what would you say to someone who's not African American about your experience being in the Black Nurses Association? What advice would you give them, or what perspective? I'm always trying to get more.
Yeah. I think it's very important for everyone to put themselves in positions that sometimes aren't as comfortable. And I think it's important for our own learning, our own personal growth. I think it's important for our professional growth to get different perspectives. And even the personal story I was telling you of the individual here at Stanford, I learned so much from that dialogue and from that understanding. I've learned even more from being involved in the National Black Nurses Association. The expertise that's there is incredible. The conference is incredible. It's a great learning opportunity. It's great social networking as well. But I've grown a lot professionally from that experience, and I will plan to continue to actively participate throughout my career as well. But I do think it's important for us to move from social situations where we're comfortable. I've worked with people that said they've never had a person of color come to their home. And I can't believe in 2024 that's the case, but it is. And I think each of us has to be uncomfortable and to learn from one another.
So before I ask you the second question, Gail, I just want to let those viewers who have just joined us that I'm here today. My guests are Dr. Michelle Williams and Dr. Dale Beatty from Stanford Medical Center here in Palo Alto. And we're talking about, if I might sum it up, the African American nurse experience and the strategies and the initiatives they have taken to promote success of these nurses in their medical center. So Dale, I'd like you to also talk about, because it's coming through, but we haven't named it, except you mentioned it early when we started, and that is the impact of caring science on your success with promoting a healing environment and a thriving environment for nurses of color and all nurses. So would you speak to that?
Yeah, no, I think it's been, I actually have to say it's changed my career. the investment that I've made with Caring Science. And, I mentioned that I was a chief nurse for 23 years and have really enjoyed that. And Caring Science has been foundational in the philosophy and the professional practice model in almost every organization that I've been in. But I have to say, Paulina, I don't think I really understood it as much until the last probably 10 years. And I did an immersion with Dr. Gene Watson. I know you did too, and you continue to do that in a pretty significant way. And when I first started in the Caritas program, I have to say I read Dr. Watson's couple of her books, and I didn't understand them. And I had to go back and read them a couple times. And one lesson I read for 4 hours for one small lesson, and really trying to understand it. And I still go back and read it, and I don't completely understand all aspects of it, but I have a working knowledge, and I have the literacy today to be able to talk about it. And I think the reason it's important is even there's 10 Caritas processes that we practice, competencies, so to speak, that you can really focus on. And the first is really creating meaningful connections and taking care of yourself and others. And I think that's foundational in this work. And I think it's foundational in the work that we do in DEIB as well. And so for me, on a personal basis, I realized for myself, this was on the personal basis, Caritas process number one is allowing positive and negative energies to flow. And what I realized is I was holding a lot of negativity sometimes based on interactions that I had, toxicity sometimes even. And I had to let that go. And what was interesting about it is I really worked through reflection and practice to let it go. And I ended up losing about 45 pounds. That's how much I was holding on to. And you can't hold on to that and have the meaningful relationships and connections you want if you're holding on to residual issues and toxicity of the past. And I do think being authentic and open is also important when we talk about creating community. How do you create community if you're not authentic and you're not allowing other people to be authentic as well? And so I've learned, and the work that I've done with Michelle Williams with our Black Nurses Association, and also with our ERG group, we call it the BEAM team, which is our Black Employee Resource Group, how important it is to really actively listen, be open, seek to understand, not to be understood, and to allow those feelings to flow and for people to express themselves. And then I've also learned how important it is and the authenticity is the celebration and recognition. We've had several celebrations here of our employee resource groups, particularly the Black employee resource groups. And it's really great to see the cultural expression, the celebration, the music celebration. That's part of healing as well. And that's part of Caring Science. And so it has really enriched me as an individual. And my hope and my goal is I hope that it's enriched other people in their interactions with me as well. Because at the end of the day, that's really the most important.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Dale, because you're talking about Caring Science, Dr. Gene Watson, our mentor, and the crux is love. That yes. we be in the world with love and caring, and that we're all connected. And what we do to ourselves, we do to other people at the same time. And so I just want to say to both of you that this caring and this love and just passion for promoting belonging and connectedness, you're just not, these are not just words that you're saying. You live it day in, day out, no matter where you are. And I just commend you both, because it's not hard. You have to be vulnerable in order to love, in order to reach out. You're taking risks, but that's really the only way to be in order to nurture ourselves, which we have to do first, right? In order to nurture other folks. So I just want you to think about this, because nothing goes absolutely smoothly. So you embarked on creating a chapter, I'd like you to think about, because others who have this in their mind, I'd like them to know, nothing goes smoothly. But what is one challenge you had that you overcame when creating this chapter of the Black Nurses Association? Or another way to think of it, what do you wish you did differently embarking on this very important initiative?
So, Paulina, I will answer. I'll start by answering the question. First, I want to say I think that starting the Stanford Medicine BNA chapter was a great thing to do because, as Dale mentioned, it was really a catalyst for so many things that have followed. And it also provided sort of this place for Black employees, nurses and non-nurses, to feel connected. And it started to permeate those feelings that some people had about not understanding how they belonged. It started to build on that. And after starting the chapter, is really neat that people from different cultures and different backgrounds came to myself, came to Dale, and asked, can I join? Is it okay? And I think if I could do something differently, it would have been to initially state that, yes, we're the National Black Nurses Association, we're a chapter of the National Black Nurses Association. But like all of the things that we're doing here, this is an inclusive organization, and really explicate what that meant and what that means, and that it was open to everyone. People joined initially, they joined immediately, but I think I would just make that very clear at the very beginning, because that was not necessarily known. When we show up in San Francisco in the next week and a half, it'll be very clear. And each of the conferences that we have gone to is reflective of our community across Stanford Healthcare. And I think the beauty of that is, when I think about what it means to be in healthcare, what it means to be myself, what humanity means and what human caring means, it's all of us, right? It's all of us together caring about other human beings. And it's wonderful. Caring science is the foundation for that. So I think that's the only thing that I would say. Start off by just saying, this is an inclusive organization and it is open to everyone. Nurses and non-nurses, people from all cultural backgrounds and ideas, and talk about those things that are, common across us. We care about humanity, we care about human caring, we care about one another, and we are able to build that community within this chapter. And again, I think one of the things that I'm really proud of is we've been able to encourage the development of other culturally based chapters, a deeper connection to the Hispanic Nurses Association, this very strong and vibrant Philippine Nurses Association, increased participation in SEMA, which is the National Coalition of Minority Nurses. I think we're starting to really recognize how valuable this is. So I'm excited about where we are, where we've been, and really looking forward to how we might build broader community, even outside our four walls at Stanford Healthcare, do more community related collaborations and partnerships with other organizations and community bodies. So I think really the sky is the limit. And this chapter has really given me that sort of insight. And I think us as an organization, that opportunity.
Thank you. Before I go on to Dale, I just want to ask Michelle, if you could just give us an example of one of the initiatives that you have done with a community organization, that would be helpful.
Right. So which one to pick? I'm going to highlight one that when you go to the conference, you'll hear a little bit more about it. There is a group in the Bay Area that we connected with, just an outreach event that we attended with the Alameda County Sheriff's Department. And just in sort of being involved in that event, learned that a young African-American sheriff deputy by the name of Sean Vasquez, a young man, found himself as a young person in need of support and sponsorship and mentorship. And it was through his experience that he was able to sort of withstand some of the typical things that could have occurred in his life and aspire to do something different. And that something different that he wanted to do as a young kid was to become a police officer. And through his mentorship, that happened. So he and I had this really interesting conversation about this desire that he had to create a mentorship program focused on improving health and wellness of adolescents and children of color in his community. And as a part of his sheriff's department, he had support from his leadership. Long story short, we were able to partner with them and sort of jointly sponsor a program, a mentorship program for adolescents. It has been wildly successful. My team has supported the development of this mentorship program. They do physical activity, nutrition training, just all kinds of wonderful things. So I'm really proud of this. Here, young gentlemen who police or sheriff's deputy in the community really wanted to give back. And the other part of that was starting to have a dialogue with not only the children, but also their family members and the community about this relationship that he felt was really important to forge between people of color and officers of the law. And so it's just so successful. They will be presenting at the conference, so more to come there, but I'm really proud of that work. Our team continues to support the development of this mentorship program and provide education around health and nutrition and those kinds of things. So I think a huge success.
Well, this is an excellent example because you have one helping profession, law enforcement, nursing, banding together to really nurture our future, the children in health and wellness and across the age span. So excellent example. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can't wait to hear the presentation. And so Dale, as we're coming to a close, I'd like to ask you, and it's kind of a take on a question I just asked Michelle. What advice would you give to an individual or group thinking about beginning a chapter?
So what I was really deeply reflecting, Pauline, on your question about what you would do differently.
Okay.
And I think the thing that I would do differently is educate other leaders about the importance. And one of the things that happened for us originally was, why are these resources being given to the Black Nurses Association? Why are we investing in the ERGs and helping people understand that that's where the greatest disparity is? And that's where we want to make the biggest impact. So we're prioritizing. And that was difficult for some people. And I think to educate people up front on the importance of the work and what we're trying to achieve up front is critically important. And the other thing that I think is critically important, don't ask communities to get together and not use their voice. You have to be open to hear the feedback and learn from the voices and not get threatened by them. And I think there are microaggressions that live in this world. There is structural racism that exists in this world. And we have to listen and understand and help build coalitions and support one another. And so that would be the fundamental feedback that I would say. Make sure you're ready, educate yourself up front of why you're doing it, and make sure you get behind it and help push because you have the responsibility to do so.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so I have another question. I thought I was going to close, but I have another question. And that is, what is your most profound takeaway from this journey that you have embarked on in creating this chapter at the one of the most recognized medical centers in the country, maybe in the world. I know you're in the top 10 for U.S. News and Report, but what have you personally taken away from this journey? So I'm going to start with you, Michelle.
I'm going to say, I think the responsibility of being out there and telling the story, because people call us. People call our chief executive officer. People call, our team members across the organization, and they ask, how are you doing this? So I think being ready to tell the story and just accepting that responsibility. One of the things that we were asked to do after starting our chapter, we were asked to do this by the National Black Nurses Association board, was to create guidelines for other organizations to do something similar. So I think really just owning it and leaning into that. And we have done that. I'm a member of the board. I'm parliamentarian for the National Black Nurses Association, and just continuing to tell that story and be out there and be willing to share. Recently, a colleague of Dale's reached out and wanted to learn more about our experience. How did we do this? Were there challenges? What advice can we give them? Can they partner with us? So, it's sort of interesting. Sometimes when you are known for something, and here we're known for doing something different in an organization that typically, when you look at academic medical centers across the country, don't have Black Nurses Association chapters, so we're very unique. You become the voice of how to do that, and you represent that. And so I try my best, and Dale does this too. And I will say this, without Dale's support, sponsorship, and he mentioned it a moment ago, the push, be ready for what it will take to do this and be willing to help push. Dale has been by my side, behind pushing, in front pulling, all of the way over the last nearly 5 years to help move this forward. And I just want to thank you, Dale. This would not have happened without your leadership and your support, your guidance, your thought partnership. So I would say that representing what we have done, writing about what we have done. You both are scientists and you know the value of publication, because what we want to be able to do is to create a pathway for other people to follow behind, to come alongside us. So I take ownership of that. And I feel very strongly about being an advocate and a voice for moving these kinds of really important initiatives forward.
Michelle, I'm so glad you mentioned that you have developed guidelines and you're willing to share. You're making this scalable. And so viewers, if you have an interest, I will drop the contact information for Michelle and Dale into the chat after the show, so that you know that this is not something they're keeping in a precious little box to themselves, but they're willing to share with the world. So thank you, Michelle. Dale.
So I would say that the work can be hard and heavy, but it can also be a lot of fun. And I think the most important is that we recognize that our work that we do together is for humanity. And you said it well earlier, Paulina. In the end, it's about love. And so creating human connection, supporting humanity and love is what I've learned.
And Dale, we met formally about a year ago, and everything Michelle has said about you, I have personally experienced, and I will always be forever grateful to you.
And it goes back to both of you as well. It's an honor and a privilege. We learn from each other and have the responsibility to lift each other as well. And so I feel that and I recognize that, and I honor you both.
Well, this is like a love fest. We said it's all about love. It's a love fest. So I'm just going to put this up so the viewers can see that it will be in the San Francisco at the Marriott Marquis. Michelle, one last plug for the conference that's in a few days. Mm-hmm.
That's in a few days. You really want to be there. There's so much that's going to occur over those 5 days. Please, please, please come out. I will tell you there is a special treat during the opening session on Thursday, July the 25th. Starting at 5 p.m. So make sure that you get to your seats early because you're in for an incredible treat. So please do come. And there's a host of continuing education and CME credits that you'll get from all of the presentations. So make sure that you get to them and scan in and scan out, because you're going to be really excited about, one, just all the presentations that are going to happen and the benefit of receiving continuing education credits for them. So I will see you there.
And you don't have to be a nurse to attend. And Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read somewhere that the opening ceremony, not the reception, but the opening ceremony is free. There's no charge for it.
It's open to the broader community. I know there's some flyers out there, so take a look at the website, nbna.com, and just look for some additional details regarding the conference.
Yeah, and I'll drop it in the chat as well. Well, I don't want to say goodbye. Could continue this, and maybe we'll gather after the conference and see what we can share. But thank you so much for being with us today, and I'll see you at the conference.
I'll see you there. Thank you, Paulina.
Okay.
Thank you, Paulina and Michelle. A pleasure.
Thank you, Dale.
Okay. So we have had an incredibly rich discussion with two nursing leaders, dynamic nursing leaders who are making the ground fertile and rich and healthy for African American nurses to thrive in a major medical center, but also all nurses. We can take away the pearls and gems that they have given us and their strategies to enrich the life of all nurses. And so one of the themes as we were speaking and sharing is caring for oneself, because that's where it starts. In order to care for others, we must care for ourselves first. So I thought I'd end the show today with a poem from my book, Regala Healing, and you guys have seen it, Regala Healing. And it's called Caring for Myself. I'm caring for myself in a new way. I'm caring for myself, and only I have a say. I'm caring for myself, living in harmony. I'm caring for myself, eliminating monotony. I'm caring for myself, realizing my worth. I'm caring for myself, cherishing my time on earth. I'm caring for myself, humbled by blessings. I'm caring for myself with gratitude while progressing. I'm caring for myself, gardening quiet time. I'm caring for myself and feeling miraculously divine. So as we care for ourselves, we can care for others. And remember, we're all connected in some way, and we are bound by love. So thank you for joining us today. I'm here, right here on blackdoctor.org on the first and third Sundays. And until I see you again, I wish you love and light. And so now, before we end, I will share some resources with you.